Chapter 10, The Forge, Part 1, Battlestar Galactica, Hangar Deck, 0630 hours. The first Federation engineer arrived on the hangar deck at 0630 hours with a diagnostic scanner and no appointment. Lieutenant Commander Asha Reyes, the Norway's senior structural engineer, was a compact woman whose dark hair was pulled into a severe regulation bun, her calloused hands speaking of a life spent inside heavy hull plating rather than behind a desk. She had been aboard the Galactica for 2 hours for a routine technical exchange authorized by Captain Patel following the DR Disc Ghost contact. The official mandate was sensor integration, locking Federation detection profiles into colonial DRADIS arrays to synchronize their tactical tracking. Reyes had finished the sensor work in 40 minutes. She spent the remaining 80 walking the belly of the beast. She walked the claustrophobic corridors, noting the heavy hull patches, field repairs layered 3 and 4 generations deep, each one a jagged scar from a battle or blowout fixed with desperate improvisation rather than proper protocol. She walked the engineering decks, staring up at the FTL drive, an enormous, brutalist monolith of machinery operating on violent physics her academy training had never touched, which she intended to study as long as they let her. She walked the crew decks, absorbing the fraying wear and the stubborn maintenance that kept a dying Leviathan breathing. Then she walked onto the hangar deck, saw the Vipers and stopped. They sat in shadowed maintenance rows under the harsh glare of halogen floodlights, 23 Mark IIs and 17 Mark VIs. The Mark VI were newer, their aggressive lines cutting through the dark. The Mark VI was something else entirely. They were old, scarred war dogs. Their hull plating was a chaotic patchwork of original armor, field-cut scrap, and composite overlays applied and reapplied until the original geometry was buried under layers of survival. And, Reyes noted with the cold precision of a structural engineer, they were on the edge of breaking. The wing root joints on at least 4 Mark IIs showed visible stress fracturing, hairline cracks radiating like spiderwebs from the mounting bolts, a classic metal fatigue propagation. Under standard flight, they were stable. Under the violent, high-G kinetic load of a dogfight, they would propagate. The wing would tear clean off the fuselage, and the pilot would die in the dark. Reyes was standing in the shadows beneath Viper tail number N7242C, running a scanner along the port wing route when a voice cut through the hum of the deck. "Can I help you, Lieutenant Commander?" She turned. Chief Petty Officer Galen Tyrol stood 3 meters away, arms crossed, his face a mask of grease and territorial hostility. "Chief Tyrol, I'm Asha Reyes, Structural Engineering, Norway." "I know who you are," Tyrol said, his voice flat. "You were on my deck for the sensor integration. That's done. Why are you still here?" Reyes held up the scanner, the blue light catching the shadows. "Because 4 of your Mark IIs have stress fractures in the wing root composites that will propagate to catastrophic failure under sustained combat loads. And because the composite material you're using for the repairs doesn't have the tensile strength to arrest the propagation, you're patching cracks with material that will crack." Tyrol's arms remained locked. His expression did not change, but something behind his eyes shifted. The exhausted look of a man who had known a terrible secret for months and was waiting for someone to finally confirm it.
Tell me something I don't know, Lieutenant Commander.
"I can fix it." "With what?" Reyes pulled a sample strip from her kit. A thin, flexible sheet of material that gleamed with a faint, iridescent defiance under the halogen lights. "Uranium composite laminate," she said. "Standard Starfleet hull reinforcement. Tensile strength approximately 400% greater than your current overlay. Flexible enough to conform to the wing route. Bondable with your tools, your equipment, your deck. I don't need to take the birds back to the Norway. I can do this here." Tyrol uncrossed his arms. He took the strip. He bent it, holding it up to the harsh light, running a grease-stained thumb along the edge to feel the grain with the tactile instinct of a mechanic who only trusted what he could touch. 400%. Minimum. Tests close to 600 in a lab. But I'm not promising lab conditions on a hangar deck.
You brought this with you?
I brought a field fabrication kit. I can print enough laminate to reinforce all 4 compromised routes in 6 hours. Call it 18 hours if you want the other Mark IIs done as preventive maintenance. Tyrol looked at the strip, then at N7242C, and finally at the woman who had walked onto his deck and offered him the one material he needed to keep his people alive. "Chief," Reyes said, her voice lowering into the ambient noise of the deck, "I'm not here to redesign your birds. They're good ships, the engineering is sound. I'm here because I saw a problem I can solve, and where I come from, engineers don't walk past problems they can solve." Tyrol handed the strip back. "Start with N7242C. She's Starbuck's bird. If the fix holds under Starbuck, it'll hold under anything." Part 2, Battlestar Pegasus, Flight Deck, 0700 hours. The Saratoga's engineering team arrived on the Pegasus 30 minutes later, bringing considerably more noise. Lieutenant Commander Dmitry Koskov led the charge. a broad-shouldered mountain of a man with a heavy Urals accent and a thick beard pushing Starfleet regulations to the breaking point. He brought 4 engineers, 2 heavy fabrication kits, and the aggressive energy of a man who knew the Norway was already working on the Galactica and refused to be outdone. Commander Leodama met them on the flight deck. He was more formal than his father, careful with the diplomatic boundaries of Allied forces, but fundamentally he was a pilot, and pilots treated engineers the way infantry treated medics. They kept you alive, so you gave them the deck. Lieutenant Commander Koskov, welcome aboard the Pegasus. Commander Adama, permission to assess your Mark 7 maintenance status. I understand your birds have been operating without a proper maintenance yard for some time. 14 months. Koskov's eyebrows shot up. 14 months of combat operations without a yard. Starfleet doctrine would classify every airframe on this ship as a flying coffin. The fact that they were airborne wasn't maintenance, it was a sheer act of physical defiance. Then we have work to do, Commander. With your permission. Granted. One condition. Sir, you work with my people, not around them, Lee said, his voice hard. Every modification is reviewed by my crew before it touches an airframe. These ships belong to colonial pilots. They meet colonial standards. Koskov grinned like a man handed a loaded weapon. Understood, Commander. We wouldn't have it any other way. He turned to his team. 14 months without a yard. Let's see what we're dealing with. They flooded the flight deck like water finding cracks in stone. Within an hour, Saratoga engineers and Pegasus deck crew were standing shoulder to shoulder over exposed engine blocks, shouting over the ambient roar in a hybrid technical pidgin being invented in real time. Koskov went straight for the Mark 7 avionics. He stared at the colonial targeting array for a full minute, dissecting the violent simplicity of it. Hardwired optical tracking, manual override, no fire control computer, no automated solutions. Every shot was aimed by the pilot's hand and eye. Commander Adama, your pilots aim manually. Yes, no computer. No predictive tracking. We learned the hard way that networked computers are a vulnerability, Lee said darkly. The Cylons exploited our military network and shut down our fleet. Every ship that relied on automated targeting died in the first minutes of the war. Koskov absorbed the sheer paranoia of it. It was the most extreme cybersecurity doctrine he had ever seen. Kill the network before the enemy can weaponize it. We won't touch the targeting architecture, Koskov said instantly. Your doctrine is correct, but I can improve the optical resolution without adding networked components. Better glass, Commander. Better sensors feeding directly to the pilot's display. No computer in the loop, just cleaner data for the same human eye. Lee looked at the heavy machinery. Show me. Part 3, Battlestar Galactica, hangar deck, 1400 hours by 1400 hours. The unspoken war had begun. No one authorized it, but it flared up organically, driven by the ruthless professional pride of engineers who build things and refuse to be beaten by the ship next door. The comm chatter shifted from formal status updates to pointed, aggressive milestones. The Saratoga team reported a 30% improvement in Mark 7 optical resolution. Within the hour, the Norway team reported the first 2 Mark II wing routes reinforced, projecting a 40% structural tolerance boost. Saratoga fired back. Engine response time increased by 12%. Norway countered, reduced radar cross-section via duranium hull laminate. Tyrol and Koskov never met face-to-face. The work spoke for itself, carried by the intelligence of mechanics moving between the decks. Tyrol was in his element. The Norway engineers deferred to him because the blood and oil of the deck belonged to him. The institutional knowledge of these battered airframes lived exclusively in his head. He deferred to Reyes on material science. It was a seamless, wordless dance, pointing at a stress fracture, selecting a composited, reaching for the heavy tools in perfect synchronization. They were not redesigning the birds. Tyrol wouldn't allow it, and Reyes understood why. These were colonial machines built for colonial killers. Altering the flight envelope would put the pilots in the grave. Every fix was an improvement within the existing physics, stronger materials, better thermal handling, tighter tolerances. It was the exact same warbird, just reinforced with Federation armor. By mid-afternoon, Tyrol had completed 6 wing routes and moved to the massive engine mounts. In the corner, Reyes was fabricating duranium laminate, cutting the iridescent metal with the precision of an assassin. A grease-covered deckhand, Specialist Figursky, approached Reyes during a fabrication cycle. Lieutenant Commander, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why are you doing this? This isn't your war. These aren't your ships. You just showed up. Reyes looked at Figursky. The man was exhausted, running on fumes, holding a heavy wrench like it was an extension of his own arm. Specialist. Where I come from, the Starfleet Engineering Corps has a saying, Reyes said, her voice cutting through the mechanical roar. It's not in the manual. If it flies, floats, or fights, and it's broken, fix it. Don't ask whose it is. Figursky stared at her. Then he handed Reyes a dented cup of the dark acidic sludge the Galactica called coffee. That's terrible coffee. Reyes choked out after one burning sip.
Yeah, it's all we've got.
It's perfect. They went back to the grind. Part 4. Battlestar Galactica. Hangar deck. 1800 hours. Starbuck hit the deck at 1800 hours. Helmet under her arm. Fresh off a mind-numbing CAP rotation of empty space. She was bored, which meant she was immediately looking for something to break. She found it instantly. Viper N7242C was not where she left it. It was dragged into the primary maintenance bay, its heavy armor stripped off, its guts exposed. A stranger was buried underneath it, burning sheets of alien metal into the wing roots. Tyrell intercepted her before she drew blood. Before you say anything, what is happening to my Viper, Chief? She's getting duranium composite laminate on the wing roots, Tyrell said quickly. Those stress fractures I warned you about, they're being arrested. Lieutenant Commander Reyes brought the material. The fix is structural. Your bird is going to hold. Starbuck looked at the stranger, then scanned the shadowed deck. 4 other Mark IIs were ripped open, Starfleet and Colonial grease monkeys working side by side in organized chaos. Is that the same material on Federation hull plating? A variant, Tyrell said. Lighter. 5 times stronger than anything we have. 5 times. Reyes says 400% minimum. Starbuck fell uncharacteristically silent. Tyrell watched her mind work. One of the few times Kara Thrace processed data before converting it into a violent action. How does it affect the flight envelope? It doesn't. Same weight, same geometry. She flies identical to what you know. She just doesn't break. And the engine mounts? Next. Norway Thermal Management Composites. Engine housing temperatures under full burn will drop by 15%. 15% means I can run the engines harder. It means you can run them harder for longer without melting them. Yes, Starbuck stared at N7242C. The ship that had dragged her out of the apocalypse. Through every brutal dogfight and screaming combat landing, she knew every violent vibration and micro-delay in that hull. Now, it was being rebuilt as a predator. When can I fly it? Reyes needs 2 hours for the cure. I can have her ready for a test flight at 0600. I want a full combat test, Starbuck demanded. Maximum Gs, sustained afterburner, combat maneuvering intensity. If this holds under my flying, it holds under anything. That's exactly what I told Reyes. Starbuck looked at Tyrell. A quiet, dangerous ghost of a smile crept onto her face. The look of an apex predator who had been flying on borrowed time and just got handed a loaded gun. Chief, tell the Lieutenant Commander if her fix works, I'm buying her a drink. It'll be terrible because everything on this ship is terrible, but it'll be the most sincere, terrible drink she's ever had. Starbuck stalked off the deck. Tyrell turned back to the bay. Reyes slid out from under the Viper, wiping industrial grease from her hands. Wing root cure is setting. Structural integrity projections holding at 420% improvement. The laminate bonded clean. My crew knows their birds. Yes, Chief, they do. Reyes looked at the scarred Mark II fortified with Federation steel. I heard the captain. About the drink. Starbuck doesn't offer drinks to people she doesn't respect. Reyes stared into the dark of the hangar. I've been in Starfleet engineering for 14 years. Constitution-class refits. Miranda shield generators. This is the most satisfying work I have ever done. Tyrell stood in the shadows, feeling the crushing, lonely weight of 14 months of solitary command finally lifting off his spine. Yeah, Tyrell rasped. Same. Part 5. Battlestar Pegasus. Flight deck. 2100 hours. The Saratoga team did not sleep. By 2100 hours, Koskov's heavy engineers had overhauled the optics on 11 Mark VI IIs. The unnetworked displays now fed the pilots crystal clear, high-resolution data. Analog in philosophy, digital in precision, as Koskov bragged. Then they ripped into the power distribution network. Colonial conduits were built with massive conservative tolerances. They could handle far more violence than the system allowed. Koskov's crew recalibrated the distribution ratios, ripping the throttle wide open on the energy pipeline. The result was a warbird that hit like a hammer. Weapons drew power faster, engines spooled up 12% quicker. Life support margins expanded, zero network vulnerability. Pure colonial kinetic doctrine, supercharged. Lee flew the first test in the black. He dumped the Mark VII out of the Pegasus tube at 2115 and felt the violence instantly. The engine response was razor sharp, tuned by a master. The weapons hit with a microsecond reduction in delay. He slammed the stick into a maximum G combat profile, sustained afterburners, extreme attack vectors. The bird didn't just hold, it screamed for more. He landed hot. Koskov was waiting in the heavy fumes of the flight deck, practically vibrating with anticipation. Well, Commander. Lee pulled his helmet off, staring at the perfectly unchanged exterior of a ship that was now a completely different monster on the inside. Lieutenant Commander Koskov, how many birds can your team complete by morning? Koskov's bearded grin split his face. If your deck crew bleeds with us through the night, all of them, Commander. Lee looked at his deck chief. The chief looked at Koskov. They both looked at the clock. All hands, Lee ordered, his voice echoing off the blast doors. Full maintenance cycle. Every Mark 7 gets the Koskov treatment. We work through the night. The Pegasus deck erupted. Access panels were ripped off. Tools screamed over the roar of the ship. The absolute chaotic violence of a massive maintenance push filled the air. 2 crews building a weapon against a clock ticking down to war. On the Galactica, Tyrol heard the comms chatter. The Pegasus was doing every single Mark 7. He turned to Reyes, his eyes burning with exhausted adrenaline. How many Mark 3s can we do by morning? Chief, I've been waiting for you to ask me that. Both ships went to full operation. Into the dark. Part 6, Battlestar Galactica. Observation Gallery, 2300 hours. William Adama stood in the shadows of the observation gallery and watched his ship burn the midnight oil. Below him, the hangar was a living, breathing forge. Viper sat gutted under blinding floods. The grating vibrated with the shriek of fabrication tools and the heavy clash of metal. Tyrol was conducting the chaos, directing his crew and Starfleet engineers with absolute, unquestioned authority. The chief looked lighter. The crushing isolation of keeping the fleet alive alone had been replaced by the violent, focused energy of a man who finally had an army at his back. Adama watched Figursky and a Norway engineer bent over an access panel, their hands moving in perfect, blind synchronization, unaware of the uniforms they wore. He thought of the letter he wrote about trust, about patience being the price of arrival. This was arrival, not a planet, not a politician's ink on a treaty. It was 2 engineers bleeding over an engine block in the dead of night, solving a problem together that would have killed them apart. It was Reyes fixing a broken ship because she could. It was Tyrol handing a stranger his wrench. Adama stayed in the shadows. He issued no orders. The Admiral's job was to stand back and let the Alliance forge itself in the fire of the deck plates. In the morning, Starbuck would fly, but Adama already knew the armor would hold. He had seen Tyrol's face, and Tyrol's face never lied about a Viper. Below him, the forge roared into the night. 60 warbirds being sharpened for a slaughter they could all feel coming. End of chapter 10.